right, what's up my brothers? In this video we're going to be covering this post here from a gal who's been waiting 10 years. The title is 10 Years No Marriage. There's a wall of text, and behind this wall of text is the real reason why she's pushing so hard for marriage, which I'll get to in a minute when I offer some feedback on this. But let's read her post first. This is her rant. Female 29, male 34. We've been together for almost 10 years now. 1 kid and 1 on the way, so she's pregnant. Says he won't marry me until I have my own 401k. For those outside of the United States watching this, that's a registered investment fund that people will access when they retire. It's basically a way to accumulate some degree of wealth without paying minimum taxes on it. In Canada, it's called an RRSP, so it's a similar sort of thing. He's money obsessed, and I think this is what it's all about, she says. I'm on a government insurance Medicaid, while he has a great job and amazing benefits. His mother is his life insurance beneficiary. That's very interesting. I'll touch on that when I do the feedback. And I just get worried about our kiddos in the future if something were to happen to him. He has 2 bachelor degrees. I was raised by a poor single mother with 4 siblings. No college degree, so I bartend day shift throughout the week and make decent money, she says, bartending as a pregnant lady. I pay electricity, water, sewage, my phone bill, and car insurance. He pays the mortgage. No mention of who pays for repairs and maintenance for the vehicle, who pays for food, but we'll touch on that in a little bit. Since we had our first kid, I've always scheduled my jobs in life around his work schedule and figured out childcare if we needed it, moved cities multiple times for his job. I just need some advice. I want a normal relationship, the same last name as my children, where I don't have to ask him to send me money to help pay for things for the children or household. He says I can stay home after we have this baby, but I don't feel comfortable doing that with our situation, even though I really want to be a stay-at-home mom for at least a year. I love him, but this is so stressful and exhausting. Where do I go from here? Let me read some of the comments that fed back on my post, and I'll explain where in this wall of text is the reason why she's trying to get married. This guy, Ironclad, said, smart men know how to read women, and that's the reason why gold diggers like her hate high-value men, because they're hard to control and manipulate. Unlike simps who just marry the first woman who likes them back. Dr. Vinny, who's a medical doctor apparently, I doubt a pregnant day shift bartender has any idea what it means to make decent money. Caesar says she should be grateful for her situation. He's rich and will take care of her. She just wants control. Another guy here, Hanakuki, says, lots of my friends are the same, older but have live-ins. All live-ins want the ring. A trick they are doing is getting put on the bank account or on your healthcare plan at work. They're trying to use common law marriage to get what marriage gives them. Women will never admit this. Now, when I posted this on social media, I said, buried in this wall of text is the real reason why she wants married. I want a normal relationship, ... This is quote unquote from her, where I don't have to ask him to send me money. She knows marriage family law gives her financial dominance over him. This is why smart men don't marry. Let's hit the road and have a little bit of a conversation about what's going on here. This is interesting, or I find it interesting anyway. Hey, by the way, you guys, we're in the Turbo S, so it's a little bit of a louder car. I'm sure some of you petrol heads will appreciate that. So as I said, buried in that wall of text is the absolute real reason why she's pushing for marriage. It offers her a level of security financially, which she doesn't have right now. I'm assuming, it doesn't say where they live, and she doesn't really break it down, but I'm assuming they live somewhere where common law doesn't exist. There are certain states and places in the world where if you live with somebody, like in Ontario here, for example, in Canada, if you live with somebody for 2 years straight, then the government basically treats that relationship like a marriage. So even though you don't have a ceremony, you don't exchange rings, you don't have vows, legally under the eyes of the state, under the government, in many places in the world where common law exists, could be 2 years, 3, 4 years, doesn't matter. You can check the laws locally where you live. You should ask a family lawyer. You're assumed to be married by the government. And when you're assumed to be married by the government, guess what? You don't have to have the marriage ceremony. You can get half his stuff if you decide to untie the knot. See, marriage is a great instrument for women, especially from lower socioeconomic statuses, which is pretty common for a pregnant bartender, you know, in this situation, to want to get married or to get hooked up to a guy that has his life together. 2 bachelor degrees, makes lots of money, has a big life insurance policy, I'm assuming with a cash surrender value, which isn't his mom's name, which is also very interesting because, I mean, generally speaking, you get a life insurance policy to make sure your kids are looked after in the event that you die. Like if I were to die, my life insurance policy goes to my kid and she's looked after. I guess in this situation, the reason why he put it in his mom's name is because he trusts her to distribute his life insurance payout to his children. He's got one right now and another on the way, and I don't think, or I get the impression anyway, he doesn't trust the mother of his kids, let's call her the baby mama, to distribute the funds in a responsible way, which is why his mom's on the policy. It's actually a very clever positioning from this guy. A lot of you guys out there that ask me, how do I have kids by reducing the risk? Well, you can take a tool out of this guy's toolbox and basically structure your life this way, where you live in a state that doesn't have common law. You live in a state that if you do get married, then it's an automatic 50-50 shared custody type of scenario. This guy clearly has it figured out. Doesn't marry her, doesn't want to marry her. It says that he will marry her if she can get her finances in order, which she clearly never will. She doesn't have the ability, she doesn't have the know-how, she certainly doesn't seem to have the ambition to do so. She's more of the mindset to essentially have him yield to her, bend the knee and say, okay, let's get married and have that ceremony, so that she's locked in, so that she's taken care of financially. That's her approach. Her approach isn't make more money, get a better job, improve her education, level up in any way, shape, or form. Her angle is, let me get this guy to put a ring on my finger and marry me, so I'm taken care of financially, which is fine. I mean, it's smart. If you're a father and you have a daughter, that's probably the conversation that you should have with your daughter, something along the lines of just find a rich, handsome guy and get married to him. Whereas if you have a son, you probably want to have a conversation with him about the way that this guy has structured his relationship so that he doesn't lose out. Now, the flip side of all this, and I've talked about this before on podcasts and in call-ins and stuff like that, is if you're a guy and you marry a woman, or you live with a woman and you have kids with her that's of the same or equal or higher socioeconomic standing, you don't really worry about much of the stuff when it comes to the division of assets, because when it comes to division of assets, you put it in a pile, you split it down the middle, and you take 50-50 sort of thing. So if you marry a woman, or you get with a woman, have kids with her, or get into common law with her, you don't really worry about that part. But most guys will find themselves in a position, because women are hypergamous, they date across and up on a socioeconomic scale, they want to be with a better guy, so they marry a guy with 2 bachelor's degrees, has to move around to make good money, and she's complaining about it, kind of, she's ranting like, I had to move around and do all this stuff for him, and I followed him around, and it's like, well, what else are you going to do? Like, what are your options? You're going to tell him, no, I want to stay at this bar that I work at and bartend day shifts, and that's how money's going to be made? No, you got to be flexible as a chick, right? Like, you got to be willing to move around and accommodate a top shelf guy and not whine about it. That's just kind of like one of those things that chicks will do when it comes to these sorts of like Reddit posts and stuff like that, is they often find themselves in a position where they're ranting and they're looking for the sympathy of the other ladies in these groups, which they get lots of. I mean, if you try to search for this title right now on Reddit, it's actually been deleted. I tried to look it up to look for the feedback, and I always screenshot them because they come and go, but a lot of the feedback at the time was very like, oh, you should do this, and you should try to manipulate him that way, and that's not very good of him, he's a bad father, like the standard stuff. Nobody cares about the plight of men. Nobody cares about the risks that men take to facilitate the reality that women are looking for. They want to have children, they want to have kids, and that's fine. It's absolutely natural. I think men, if they want to pursue that, that's totally fine too. But this guy is smart. He's very smart. He's put himself in a position where risk has been minimized tremendously, and she knows it, and she feels uneasy about it. Now, here's the interesting thing. He probably has a degree of authority, maybe even power, if I could put it that way, in the relationship that exists right now, that he would surrender completely should he marry a woman like this, should he marry a woman of lower socioeconomic standing. It's like, lady, you came from a bad upbringing, you didn't make very good financial choices from this bad upbringing that you came from to improve your life, but what you did is you latched your trailer to the carriage or to the truck, if I can put it that way, of a top shelf guy, and you're kind of going along for the ride, and he moves for a job and you go along for it. You get pregnant, you have a kid, and he says you're going to stay home and I'm going to take care of it. Basically, that's all you can do as a guy in many jurisdictions and many environments, is you basically have to just live in the way that this guy's structured. So, like I said, take a tool out of his toolbox, and in this case, find somewhere to live where there's no common law, where the risk is lower. If you avoid marriage, then you have a degree of authority and control. I've said this before, one of the big problems, there's a chapter in my book, The Unplugged Alpha. If you guys haven't got it, it's pinned below, you should definitely read it. There's an entire chapter in my book that's titled Why Smart Men Don't Marry. You often find yourself in a scenario where you end up with a tremendous amount of responsibility to her and your kids without any authority. And responsibility without authority in that relationship is essentially slavery. So why would you sign up for that nonsense? Like, the more that I talk about this scenario, the smarter I think this guy is, and the more of an unplugged alpha he sounds like to me. And she doesn't like that. And that's okay. Sometimes, guys, And I'm going to end on this note. Sometimes, guys, the very thing that women don't like, that they protest over, that they complain about, that they want to change, that they say is dangerous for her and the kids and stuff like that, sometimes the very things that she's bitching about are the things that you don't change. If it's good for you and it's good for your kids and it's good for what it is that you're after, just because she cries about something, it doesn't matter. It's not that big of a deal, you know. Life will go on. She will survive. The kids will be absolutely fine. Even if this guy dies, let's say he dies tomorrow. Even if this guy dies, the life insurance policy is put in the hands of somebody he deems to be responsible, his mom. And I'm sure the mother will want to take care of her grandkids and probably to some degree the mother of the grandkids. Like, this is generally how things work, but like has a lot of people pointed out in the comments section, she wants authority. She wants the control of the finances and the authority that comes with that so that she can feel more comfortable in the relationship. Remember what I broke down in that wall of text? All of that blah, 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 I want the same last name, I want this and that, all the other things. What it all boiled down to was she wants to make sure that she has access to money when she wants it without having to ask for permission. She doesn't like that there's a need right now to ask for permission to get what it is that she's looking for. She has to ask him for money for something she wants to buy, for something for the kids, sort of stuff like that. And she doesn't like being maybe under the thumb is probably a really good way to put it, but tough. You know, you came from a crappy upbringing, but you latched yourself to a strong top shelf guy that's competent, resourceful, can make money. Sounds like he's actually good for the kids. I mean, a man that goes out and gets a life insurance policy for his kids is basically telling you in no uncertain terms that this matters, because if he dies and his income goes away, there's a couple $1,000,000 usually in most cases with life insurance policy that's going to get paid out to make sure the kids have enough money to pay for school and housing and all that sort of stuff over the years. So hate to say it, but this guy's smart AF. And she's complaining for a very, very good reason. Not an unreasonable reason, but a very, very good reason. And that's absolutely fine. Like I said, guys, just because she doesn't like something or protests or complains and wants it changed doesn't mean that you acknowledge or make a change in your behavior. Like I said, sometimes the very things that women don't like about you or they want you to change are actually good for her and the relationship. And that's just the way things are. Man, I love this car. It's got so much power. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up on that note. Pinned below in the description is a link to my book. You also want to check out my School of Unplugging for less than $50 a month. You can get access to a whole bunch of classroom material I've never published anywhere else, including weekly Zoom calls with me and my team of experts that cover every topic men care about: self-care, making money, dealing with women. Check it out. We'll see you guys later. Peace out.
I don't ever slow up. No, I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.